via the Coward Global Satellite Network. All right, I got a lot of stuff to get to. We both love college football. You talk to a lot of coaches. Gavin Newsom in California has gone from stay away from everything to we're opening it all up. So that gives me hope for the Pac-12, Stanford, Cal, USC, UCLA. But, man, we're moving fast here, Bruce. You talk to these coaches. Are we moving too fast? Where are we at now?
We're being optimistic right now, Colin, and I think you're going to see a lot more schools move back to trying to getting ready for the season. That's the way I would categorize it. So what you're going to see is players get brought back to schools. There's probably be a quarantine phase of that where maybe it'll be a week, 2 weeks, where they will be kind of reacclimated. They will probably get tested. And then you will see some involuntary workouts. Now, some of those details have not been sorted out. The SEC is going to vote on Friday, tomorrow, to see what the plan is going to be from their perspective. The MAC conference is also going to vote. But I think, look, Louisville is already moving. University of Louisville is already moving to start that process. And I think you'll see other programs are going to follow suit. And the details of that are going to get sorted out. And I think all of this, from the people I talked to, is really dependent on contingencies and protocols. How is this going to work? Will they be able to test people? And I'm not just talking about players, but everybody who's around the program, trainers, strength and conditioning people, coaches. Will they test them on a daily basis? Will they test them multiple times a week? It's going to cost a lot of money to do that. When you talk to people at smaller programs, say, we don't know if we'll be able to do that. So I think those are the things. And then it's like, what kind of practices will they be able to have? The workouts. You have big weight room facilities. But from my understanding, some of these schools will probably only be able to have maybe 10 guys training at a given time in that facility, and then they'll have to rotate. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that has to be sorted out between now and even the middle of next month.
I saw something today. A website had the most snaps taken in the NFL from 2006 to last year. Miami was number 1. USC was 5. And neither has been terribly relevant for a decade. And I said there's a lot of sports I miss right now, but even if it comes back, one of the things I miss most is Miami Hurricane football and USC being great, because I feel college football has gotten too regional and too rural. And I loved Miami, which you know well, and I love USC because it felt coastal and big, and I got all the SEC and the Big 12 programs. I want all of it. USC Texas got a 22 rating. Bama Clemson gets a 16. 30% of the country is not interested. You know Miami well. Why can't they get it right at Miami and USC? They still put guys in the NFL, and they haven't been relevant for a decade.
Yeah, I think some of that, Colin, when you look at, first of all, they're programs that have personas to them.
Yeah.
USC has an amazing history. Miami has its persona from the U and everything back there. They're programs that are centered in huge recruiting bases. So they are going to get individual talent. And we've seen that. Even when there's been a lot of guys who at Miami weren't as good as they were in the NFL. I think the biggest issue, and this is probably going to sound like an oversimplification, but I think it's real. If you don't have the right coach running your program, you're going to be spinning your wheels. So look, USC was great under Pete Carroll. And then, look, you can't overlook this part of it. USC had crippling sanctions. Miami had big sanctions. That really impacted what they did coming out of it. And then I think you've had a lot of uncertainty in the leadership. Miami has cycled through a bunch of coaches. There was a little flash under Mark Richt, turnover chain. They whooped Notre Dame on a big stage. People got excited about, quote, the U being back. I think it was a little bit of a false facade to that because they were good on defense, making turnovers, but they weren't very good on offense. USC had a little bit of a run with Sam Darnold, but then again, we saw they were underwhelming for the most part of this decade. And again, it goes back to the coaching. I think if you have the right coaching, if you have the right leadership, I mean, look, we've seen people get really excited about some moves USC has made this offseason. It doesn't right now. They haven't won or lost a game, but I think that shows you the branding power that's there. It's just you need the right people to marshal it and then do something with the momentum when they get it.
3 minutes, Jarrett Stidham. You did a book on quarterbacks, The Making of a Modern Quarterback. It's a great read, by the way. If you love football, go buy it. New York Times bestseller, Bruce Feldman. Jarrett Stidham. He came out in the 4th round. I wasn't outraged. I watched him in college. Everybody's telling me how great he is. You saw him. You watched him. You covered him. Can you give me the truth serum on this stuff?
I think he was a pretty good quarterback at Auburn. They had 1 year where they were very good. He had talent around him. I think that when you look at it, do you see him as a franchise quarterback? The challenge for him, and I've never heard anybody say a negative thing about Jarrett Stidham being around him. He's a guy people genuinely like. They like to be around him. He's got some tools. He's a good athlete. The challenge for him is he's not only just replacing the guy, he's replacing the legend there. And it was a franchise that got older. So that's a lot on his plate. I'm interested to see how it's going to be. I mean, with this, we've seen guys in the last few years really hit it big in the NFL, whether it's certainly Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Those guys were guys who really put programs on their back. Jarrett really didn't have to do that at Auburn. I mean, he was a young quarterback who played well when he was at Baylor, but then he transferred to Auburn. He had some good moments against some good defenses. I think I would have been surprised if he was a first-round pick. I wouldn't have been surprised if he went in the second round. He was a guy I thought might shine at the combine and really get more leverage to shoot up the boards. I don't think he's when people look at Jake Fromm and see why he fell, I don't think that's Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham has more tools. The question is going to be, how well does he play when everything is going on around him and the pressure that he's going to have to deal with being in Boston at a franchise where all eyes are on you because the bar now is incredibly high. And so we'll see how he responds to it. It's going to be much different. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I would be surprised if he turned out to be one of these guys that we lump in with Mahomes and certainly Lamar Jackson and this kind of next wave of guys. But, I wouldn't write him off because he wasn't great at Auburn. He was certainly good at Auburn.
Yeah. All right. Bruce Feldman. Good seeing you, man. It looks like, get outside and get a little sun. We live in the same community.
I've been outside a lot of the sun. It's just like, this is the first time I put on contact lenses in like 2 months, by the way.
I know. I need a haircut. I'm kind of
first time I put on sleeves.
I know. I'm kind of falling apart physically. I need a physical therapist like nobody's business. Bruce, good seeing you.
Thanks, Colin. Good seeing you.
See, Feldman, he covered the U. He wrote a book on it. And I got nothing against the SEC. I this. I watch the SEC every Saturday. Like, I think it's the best conference by far. I've defended 1,000 times. But like, Alabama's a machine. Their coach is the star of the program. Miami was all about players and personalities, and they were controversial.
It's just a different culture, and SC is the same way because they're in cities
with
that
lots of
celebrate
options,
personalities,
and agents, and
have to compete with a lot of other entertainment options.
USC,
Miami and LA have a lot to do besides college football.
Pete Carroll was 4-0 against the SEC. He'd play anybody anywhere. He went to Auburn. Auburn had the number 2 team in the country. He took them there. USC beat him with Matt Leinart. He didn't care. Miami didn't care. Miami would schedule anybody. And Nick Saban's completely manipulating his schedule. We'll play 3 cream puffs. We'll have a bye. We won't go on the road at a conference. We'll play at a general site. It's like Miami and USC had swagger. Anytime, anywhere, we'll bring our dudes. That's my kind of program.
Well, they also had dudes. Like, you look at that 2001 team that Miami had.
Oh, it's nothing against Alabama, but I don't want the star of your program to be your coach. I want it to be your players. I want to watch Zion. I love Coach K. I want to watch great players. I don't turn in a game to watch a 57-year-old coach. I like players. I respect the coach, but I watch for players. Miami was about players. Bama's about the coach.